Since protests began in Ukraine, the Ukrainian president and the Russian president have met 3 times. The Ukrainian opposition feared that their president, Viktor Yanukovych, would sign documents on Ukraine's accession to Moscow's customs union in the latest Tuesday meeting. That did not happen, but the people are not ready to end their protests. The opposition in Maidan Square encourages people to mobilise. The authorities, and especially Yanukovych, also seem unwilling to give up their positions. To find out what Moscow, Brussels, the Ukrainian government and the opposition can learn from the Maidan experience, we're going to talk to Lilia Shevtsova, Senior Research Fellow at the Carnegie Moscow Center. She joins us from the Russian capital. First of all, let's talk about the attitude of European politicians to Maidan. Did Brussels expect such a passionate reaction from Ukrainians to the refusal of Yanukovych to sign an association agreement with the EU? Do you think the EU's response has been adequate?
I think that Brussels and all European capitals were taken by surprise. They were shocked that so many people came out in Kyiv. They were also unprepared for Yanukovych's refusal to sign the association agreement. So they had no plan B ready. For European politicians, it's still not clear that the Ukrainians see the association agreement as more than a free trade zone. But it's up to them to choose the kind of civilization they want. Until now, Europe hasn't been able to offer the people in Maidan Square any significant support. Nothing more than rhetoric.
Так вот, до сих пор Европа не может предложить Майдану никакой существенной поддержки, кроме риторики.
How does this reaction from Ukrainians affect the EU's Eastern Partnership?
I think that Brussels should revise the entire Eastern Partnership project. First of all, the Eastern Partnership countries don't fit together. On one side, Ukraine is committed to Europe. At least a significant portion of Ukrainians want to move in that direction. On the other side, we have Kyiv and Azerbaijan who don't want to move in any direction. They want to stand still and be in the orbit of Russia.
The rhetoric from the Kremlin against the Ukrainian events today is much gentler than in 2004 during the Orange Revolution. Why is that?
At the beginning of the Maidan protests, Putin's rhetoric was very tough. He called this movement for independence a pogrom, but later the emotions in the Kremlin calmed down, and it's now using completely different tactics, softer, more enveloping. The Kremlin isn't going to throttle Ukraine or impose sanctions. The Kremlin understands that just to survive, Yanukovych is moving in the direction of Moscow.
How could the events in Ukraine affect Moscow's relations with other former Soviet republics? And is there a threat from these Ukrainian protests to Russia's own political stability?
I think not only the Kremlin, but the leaders of all authoritarian states, including those that are members of the Eastern Partnership, first of all Azerbaijan, are looking at Ukraine with horror, shock and discomfort. Naturally, Maidan Square is a warning for all authoritarian states in the former Soviet Union that the same thing may occur at any time in their countries. So I think that at least in Moscow, the protests will cause more intimidation, more sanctions, and repression will stiffen. In 2004, Putin used the Orange Revolution in Ukraine to make his style more authoritarian, to increase repression in Russia. Now Maidan will be another pretext for the authorities in Russia and in Central Asia to tighten their regimes.
Для российской власти и для власти, скажем, в Центральной, Средней Азии, для того, чтобы устражить и ужесточить свои правящие режимы.
Лилия Шевtsova, политолог из Московского центра Карнеги. Спасибо.
Спасибо вам.